Hi, everyone. It's Barbara Hayward here from the Old Girl Spiritual Stuff YouTube channel and my Facebook page. Today, I'm interviewing and speaking to an amazing lady that I met last year. As you know, I've been working in the spiritual field for well over 40 years. And in that time of progression, um, a lot of different modalities have come about. So when I started out 40 odd years ago, we didn't have such a great range of learning of spiritual knowledge and who we are and how we present ourselves and how to become better spiritual beings and live a different life than we may have. And Natalie is one of those ladies that when I met her, and I met her through a course that I was doing with someone else, I was a participant. I had never heard of what she does. And not that I hear about a lot, but I was incredibly intrigued. So if I was intrigued, I really hope that you out there, every one of you, if this touches you, that you would like to get more information about it. And what it is it's called human design. Wow, that in itself intrigued me, the design of humans. And so it is with utmost pleasure that I introduce you today to Natalie Upson. And Natalie lives in Australia in one of the most beautiful cities in the world. I have lived in Perth myself years ago, and I can say that with great honesty. So welcome, 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 Natalie. Thank you so much for joining us here today. And before we learn about what human design is, can you just let us know who you are, a little bit about your story, how you entered the spiritualness of all things?
Yeah,
How did you find this?
yeah. Thanks so much for having me, Barb. It's so hard to know where to start in that story. I guess I'm a 52-year-old mother in Perth with two beautiful girls who are 18 and almost 20 this week. And I have two stepsons and I have two step grandchildren.
Oh,
And I've lived in Perth pretty much all my life. I traveled for a bit in my 20s, but I am a career or corporate marketer by trade. So I've always worked in sort of corporate roles, but my whole life I have had an interest in spiritualism, and it's sort of come and gone. And it's been I guess I could say that I've done all the reading and done all the seeing clairvoyance and that sort of thing, but I've never actually figured out what my let's call it modality or what it is that I offer the universe with my spirituality. And so I've always known that the universe sort of has this kind of grand plan, I guess, or believed that that's the case, and had faith in that. But I've never kind of really seen where my contribution to that was until more recently. And I have felt like I have been on a certain path that often I didn't listen to the guidance or where my spirit wanted me to go. I was often up in my head thinking about the practical side of things, and I was raised by very practical European parents, and it was, always about what the right thing to do is, as
hard
opposed
work,
hard work.
responsibility.
It's all about hard work, that's right. And you get rewarded for hard work, right? So very much a very workaholic kind of family as well, just for generations, that
And
workaholic.
very mainstream by the sounds.
Yeah, yeah, very, very, yeah. And you've got to get a mortgage, you've got to do all those things. There's this kind of, expectation of what a successful person is. Um, and more recently, I was in my corporate world, and around COVID, things changed a lot for everybody, right? And in the role that I was in, things changed where I always kind of in the last, I suppose, 20 or 15 to 20 years of my career was leading a team, whether that was a team of one person or multiple people. And that's where I got my joy. I realized I sort of maybe my joy was less in marketing and the technical side of marketing and more in the guiding people and really kind of getting the best out of people. And I often described myself as a trampoline where I was this really soft place to land, but then I helped you kind of bounce back up if there was, if there was something that
What an
kind of got in
amazing
the way.
analogy.
Yeah, yeah. So
Hmm.
I really like that because I always wanted to be really supportive and wanted people to be able to share with me that, you're not going to get in trouble. We're going to land on the trampoline and we're going to bounce back up. So I found myself after COVID in a position where I was like I'd lost my team and then I was expected to pick up all of the work that the team were doing. And it was really kind of firstly, it was work I probably wasn't enjoying a lot, but not having wouldn't mind doing it if I also then had the balance of kind of that team to work with. So I actually went really introspective and I got quite depressed and I thought, okay, I've got to apply for more jobs and see if there's other jobs out there where I'm managing a team, and thought that was my path. But I was reminded of somehow my intuition when I'm listening to it is pretty strong. And I was reminded of the time 20 odd years ago where I had a dream to be a coach. I wanted to coach people. I wanted to help people. I wanted to help guide people, help them be the best version of themselves. And I let that dream go because of all the shoulds in life where, I couldn't afford it, didn't have the time, all of that kind of stuff, and responsibilities for getting an income and blah, blah, blah. So I let that dream go. And being reminded of it at a time when I was really quite low, I thought, right, I'm going to do this now. So off I went and went to coach school and started. I mean, and you don't actually have to go to coach school to be a coach. There's a lot of coaches out there who haven't. So, but for me, and I've learned now why, but I feel like I need that foundation in order to then be authentically marketing myself.
Yeah.
So off I went to coach school, but it really interesting because and I did this back when I went into marketing, actually. I knew that I needed an edge. So I recognized that I didn't want to just be a homogenous coach. Like, what is going to help me stand out? And, and I know I would coach someone and say, well, you as an individual is what stands out. You don't need anything else. And that is true. But I knew there was something else, and there was something else driving. Like I needed to find another modality that was going to complement what I was doing, and I was confiding in who I call my spiritual guide. She's my homeopath, but she really is my spiritual guide, and she suggested human design. She said, have a look at human design. That could be and she's never led me astray, this woman. Everything she said has been very, very helpful and resourceful for me. So I went and looked into it. And the things I learnt about myself when looking into it. So I'm a manifestor, which means I'm not meant to be doing all of the work. I'm here to have a team and to to get my ideas into fruition by having a team to work within that space to get things done. So I learned that about myself. I'm a 1-3 profile, which I mean, this means nothing to you at the moment,
We
but
can
part
go
of
into
that
that.
is the
Yeah.
foundations. I need the foundations.
Mm.
So hence why I've got to go and get that piece of paper that says, I've studied this and I've studied that. So yeah, just learned so much about myself in that sense. And so I was nerded out on it like straight away. It just resonated with me so much. So I've done probably about 12 months worth of study. I call myself still a student, but I do use it as a modality within the work that I do. And I find it so fascinating. And maybe if we've got time at the end, we can talk about how things are about to change in the world, or they've already
We
started.
need, yeah, we need
Yeah,
to talk
yeah,
about that.
and human design does sort of talk to that. So maybe a bit later at the end we can have a
Mm.
little chat about that. But yeah, just learned so much about myself and everyone I've worked with now that I've run their human design for them and done some readings and incorporated it into my coaching have just seen profound shifts in how they move through the world.
Okay, so what is the purpose of human design? Or
Yeah.
what can it tell me about me, or you about you, or you
Yeah.
about you?
Yeah. So I would say the purpose of human design is to remind you of who you were when you came into this world. So who your
Right.
spirit was, what you were designed to, who you were designed to be, and what you were designed to do when you came into this world. It's a roadmap, and it's a bit of an ex for you to experiment with it. So you really do need to you can there's ways of doing it so that you can look at a very high level and implement a couple of things that can have profound change, but then you
Okay,
can
give
go
us an
even deeper.
example.
Yep. So it can help you make decisions. And so the two things I would say are the most important is your authority. So how should you be making decisions? And secondly is your strategy, so how you move through the world. So if I give you an example, and I guess we've got to go back a step and explain that this is about the science of differentiation. So every single human is a unique human, and throughout our life, society tries to homogenize us. So we go to school and we get conditioned by teachers and peers, and we get conditioned by parents, and none of that's a bad thing. I'm not sort of talking it down, but we forget who
Yeah.
we were born to be a certain way, and we are then conditioned for the first 18 years of our lives, if not more, and by then we've forgotten who we are,
Yeah.
right? So you
Yeah.
pull up this roadmap, this body graph, and it reminds us of who we are. And
Right.
the first two things you need to do based on your human design is make decisions the way you're designed to make decisions, and move through the world the way you were designed to move through the world. So as a manifester, I'm actually an emotional manifester, and the emotional part is how I make decisions. So
Right.
I have an emotional wave. Not everyone has an emotional wave. I have an emotional wave, which means I should not make decisions when I'm in an emotional wave. And that could be a good one or a bad one, right? So
Right.
you could be
Right.
so excited about something, and then you're like, yes, I'm going to sign on to this, or I'm going to buy this, or I'm going to do that. And often, if you just gave yourself 24 hours, you would make a different decision. So you need to get back to a place of neutrality. Now, someone who is a sacral, so a generator or manifesting generator, they can make a decision based on their gut response. So they don't have an emotional wave. Some generators and manifesting generators do have an emotional wave, but once they've got past that, their gut response is reliable. So they're able to say, should I do this? And if they in their gut, so before they get up in their head, because we all go up in our head, you're not meant to, that's not how we're meant to make decisions. Decisions shouldn't happen above the neck. So they go to their gut, and if they feel a hell yes, then they should do it. If they feel a hell no, then don't do it. And the third one is I'm not sure. And if you're not sure, it's a no
Yeah.
until you get a hell yes. And the thing, the generators and the manifesting generators, about 70% of the population are generators and manifesting generators. And they have a very strong level of energy to be able, so they're here to keep the life force and workforce energy. So they can get work done, they can work 9 to 5, 5 days or 7 days a week if they want to. But the problem is that because they have all of that energy to work, they get taken advantage of.
Right.
And so that's where the hell yes, hell no comes in. It's like, well, yeah, I can do that, but do I want to do that? And so then they've got to listen to that. And they can get caught up in the mind of, I should do this or I shouldn't do that. And so they're not listening to them. They've forgotten to listen to their gut. So, and again, to back it up again, we run a human design body graph based on your time of birth. So your date of birth, time of birth, and place of birth. And it is related to where all the planets were when you were born, and also 3 months prior to when you were born. So
Okay.
one side, and maybe we can, if you want to, we can pull up your
Yeah.
design.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, let's do
There'll be a
that.
lot of people like me who are visual.
Yes,
If I can see it,
easier.
I can understand it a lot better.
Yes, absolutely. It's much easier to understand that way. So let's do that. Okay, so let me see.
But before we go there, can I just say something a little bit left
Yes.
field? It's nothing to do with this. But do you ever get interviewed? And every time I interview or I speak on video, I always get itchy nose.
Oh,
Just an
I've
itchy nose.
got
And
an
I
itchy
think
nose now, Barb.
I have an itchy nose. And do you know how hard it is to sit here and not scratch
Yeah,
the itchy nose?
yeah.
That's just a byline. That's
Oh,
just
that's
a
funny.
silly little thing. Anyway,
Can I
back
ask you what you can see?
I can see my whole chart, the
Oh,
design, the
good. Yeah,
personality. Yeah,
yeah. All right. I couldn't see that it was showing that, so that's good.
right.
So I will be looking over to my other screen, so
That's
it
fine.
may look like I'm not talking to you. Um, so Barb, you are so if I just step back and just say the planets, when we talked about the planets and I said where the planets were aligned when you were born is this
Yeah,
personality side. So, and the planets, so they cycle through gates. And so these are the gates that
right.
the planets were in when you were born. And then on this other side, the design side, is where the planets were when 3 months or thereabouts from before you were born. Okay.
Okay.
So the personality side, so this right-hand
Yeah,
side is your mind. So it's what you're
right.
aware of about
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah.
And then the design side is your physicality. So it's actually your energy and maybe how others see you. So it's like your unconscious. One side is your conscious, and the
Okay,
other side is your unconscious.
got it.
And so together, so each of those numbers before the decimal point relate to a number within this body graph. And then the number, if it's colored in, which is where the planet was when you were born or 3 months before, it means that is a defined part of you. So um, it's not, it's sustainable. It's
So that doesn't move.
Doesn't really move. No, you are that person. You have that trait. So let's call
Okay.
those numbers a trait. You have that trait.
Mm-hmm.
Where you are open, so these lighter colors, so that the actual color don't worry about so much, but where the
Yeah.
white bits are, is where you're open. So
Okay.
you're open to conditioning, but you're open to different ways of looking at things. So
So I can change. They're the areas
yeah,
that I
these
can
bits are
change.
where you can change. So depending on who you're around, what you're reading, what you're
Mm.
consuming, those things can change. So interestingly, your head and your mind, so all of these shapes relate to certain parts of the body. So think of the chakra system, but these are based on 9 centers as opposed to 7 chakras.
Yeah.
Um, so your inspiration and then the way you process the information and the knowledge that you get is open. So you're open to new ideas. You're
Right.
not fixed. You're not fixed in the way you think about something. So you would love having lots of different types of conversations. Hence why what you do, right? So
Mm.
um,
Exactly.
you want to learn new things. You want to understand a broader range of things. Whereas someone who had that colored in is is fixed.
Yeah.
It's not that they're not open, because I don't want it to sound like a bad thing if you do
Yeah.
have your those things, but you have certainty.
Yeah.
And the world needs people who have certainty, right? So
Absolutely.
and those of us, I'm like you, I have a completely open head and mind as well. So to have people around us who have some certainty, it actually helps us sort of lock into something a bit more.
Mm.
So, and then we help them see different
Mm.
perspectives because we're
Mm.
open. But if we get to what we were talking about before, which is your authority and your strategy, I just realized I'm looking at me. Barb. That was me that I was looking at there. Um, oh, sorry, Barb. We're now
Okay.
on you. We're now on you, which is you do have a defined head and mind, which means you are a little bit more fixed on things. So that's quite interesting now that we've said that. Um, So it would be interesting to dig into these a little bit more, to see what that might mean for you. But with the open head, um, I find that I need that certainty of people sort of helping guide me. Whereas you've got that, and interestingly, you are a projector, which is a guide.
Right.
So I think that with you, which is what you do, right? You're guiding people. And what you have to do, so if we're talking about your strategy and your authority, your strategy is about waiting for an invitation. So I spoke earlier about the generators who have to respond with a hell yes or a hell no. Your strategy is to wait for an invitation and then decide and then share your opinion. So
Right.
you might be inclined to put your opinion out there
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
people are ready to hear it.
Yeah. Because that would go with my trade as a medium clairvoyant. It's like my belief is, and it's the way I was taught, that unless you ask, I don't tell. So I've
Yes,
got to be invited
you've got to be invited. That's right.
into
So if
the
someone,
conversation.
yes, and I don't know, like think back through your life if you've
Mm.
often, because you do have strong opinions, am I right?
Yep.
Yep.
Mm.
And you like to share those opinions. Like think back your whole life. You've
Mm.
probably learnt now as you've gotten older
Mm.
that you need to bite your tongue.
Yeah.
If we think about younger projectors who haven't learnt that yet, might be too willing to share their opinion before people are ready. to
Yeah.
hear it, and then
Yeah.
you can upset people or they don't understand it.
Yeah.
But when they're ready to hear it,
Yeah.
then you can share it. So for people who
Mm.
maybe work in teams or corporate offices or whatever, they as projectors, and it's about 20% of the population are projectors, they can see systems that are wrong.
Yeah.
They can see straight into people and they can see when someone's bullshitting them.
Yeah.
And so what happens is that because you can see that stuff, you want to share it, but until people are ready to hear it,
Yeah.
then it may not land the way that you want it to land. Um, and so yeah, it's something it's hard to hold back sometimes. And the other thing for you is that you've got the solar plexus, so um, you're an emotional authority. So you do have an emotional wave, and that's because so that you know that if you've got your solar plexus defined here. Um, so before you make big decisions, you need to just get into a neutral place emotionally before making a big decision. Otherwise, you might jump into things the wrong things. And when you jump into the wrong things, then the opportunities for the right things don't always show up. So, and then the other really cool thing is the profile. So these are the three things, if people do nothing else, the three things that you can look at from a high level to help you understand and move through the world. So how you make decisions, um, how you should respond, and then with your profile, the 3-5 means that that's taken from these top two numbers,
Yeah.
the decimal points, so the 3 and the 5. So on your conscious side, you are an experiencer. So you
Yeah.
like to try lots of different things. So it's called sort of like failing forward or trial
Yeah.
and error. So it's like, well, I'll give this a go. I'll see if that works. If that doesn't work, I'm going to take that knowledge of what did work and then apply it somewhere else. Um,
Much.
yeah, so you do lots of different things. And then the 5 for you is on your unconscious side. So that is essentially it's a leadership role. So you are people look to you for guidance as a leader. But what it can do is people can project expectations on you with that
Yeah.
5. So they can expect you to be able to do certain things that you either don't want to do or
Yeah.
so it's like, oh, Barb would be able to do this for
Yeah.
us. She's, that leadership. And then if you don't deliver, then people get
Yeah.
quite disappointed,
Yeah.
because their expectations maybe are different to what you are willing to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Can also add there, which I think is fascinating, is I was born in 1953.
Mm, yeah.
So there's your 5 and your 3.
Oh, interesting. And the
Yeah.
numbers. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really interesting. So yeah, this is your body graph, and so where you can dive a bit deeper is you then start looking at these channels,
Right.
link them together, and that's where you get your superpowers, so your strengths. So you've got these 3 channels that would give you your strengths.
So
But you
what
look
would be one of my superpowers?
So one of your superpowers, so I'm just gonna pull up something else here. So if we start up here, so you're 6124. So let's have a look at that one. So, and it's all related to inspiration and understanding of knowledge, right? Because it's in the head and the mind, and so processing information. So if we look at this, you are, so your superpower Oh, that's interesting. So you excel in the art of enterprise and you use your instincts to assess and match people with what they need.
Yep.
And whether that's products, jobs, ideologies, and then you are able to persuasively sell perceived improvements to targeted groups,
Yep.
generating revenue and ensuring that everyone benefits. So it's like it's not generating revenue just for you, it's
Got to be a win-win-win.
that's right. That's
Mm.
right. So, and trust your instincts if something
Yeah.
doesn't feel right. So that's one of them. And then you've got 3254. So that's all about your dedication to service and motivation. So it's about trusting your instincts when it comes to your vocation. So this it's in the spleen, which is all about instinctual awareness. So you've got 4 gates in there. So it's all about really understanding or listening to your inner guide.
Yeah.
And then it's connected to the root, which is that drive to get things
Right.
done. So it's linked to the work you do and the guide, like listening to your inner guidance for the work that you actually are
Right.
spending your energy on.
Because in my conscious world, I've
Hmm.
been in this one field, the spirituality field, or the spirit field of spirit, now for 42 years. So I
Hmm.
guess there's a
Hmm.
longevity in that.
Yes.
I've tried other things, which I call them my day job, because this is not a day job. This is a pleasure. And every now and again I think, oh, maybe I should go and get a real job. And I've loved everything that I've done, but I don't stay long, because
Yeah.
it's like, no, I'm not working with spirit. I have to work with spirit. So,
And this is where this spleen, being like getting that inspiration and that
yeah,
intuition and listening to that
yeah.
intuition, you've
And
always done
where
that, obviously.
where I think this is interesting for me, and a lot of people won't know this about me, but I've got two very distinct sides running parallel. And one
Yeah,
is my scientific mind, my intellect, and one is my spiritual side. Now, what I've noticed over the decades is I have to feed my scientific mind first.
that's so
Okay, so I've
interesting.
got to get my data, I've got to get my information and things like that. And then that part of me says, now you can go and play. Now you can do all the daydreaming you like, and all the spiritual work. But if I go straight to the spiritual aspect, the scientific part of me says, we're not playing this game.
It's really
You,
interesting, Barb.
yeah,
Sorry to interrupt you, but we hadn't got to this bit about you yet. But you are what we call a split definition. So if you look with the body graph, all of the energy flows to the throat. So this being the throat here. And if there's breaks, so you've got a split definition. So these 3 channels link
yeah,
and these 2 channels link,
yeah,
but you have a big split
yeah,
between the two. So like more than one gate needs to be defined for that to be linked up.
right,
So your duality that's going on can be visually, you can see it here, right? So you've got
yeah,
all of the stuff going on up here in the head, and then it doesn't flow down to the rest of your definition. So if we compare that to mine, for example, so my split is actually, there's a number of ways where I could be completely linked up. So I could just have the 48 and
yeah,
all of this,
yeah,
so I could be linked all the way around. And then there's this one, 26. If I had that, I'd be linked all around. But see how yours, like you'd need a couple of extra gates within here to link all of that definition up. And so with such a big split, you find sometimes what you have described is that duality, but also having others around you, because when you're around other people, all of this white stuff can be connected. So the energy that someone else brings can connect you up. So
Okay.
sometimes you feel, so you might meet certain people and feel almost whole
Yeah.
because their definition is helping connect all of your definition, if that makes
Right. Right. Well, I'm really hoping that I know this story's about you and I,
sense.
but we can't tell everybody's story because we don't know everyone.
That's right.
Okay. But we do know us. And I really hope out there, those of you that are watching this, I hope this has fascinated you like it has for me. And one of the things that I like about this work, if I could be bold, is that it's never ending.
Mm,
It's unfolding. Like you would have your fixed aspects
yeah.
and then your unfolding aspects.
And the beautiful part about that stuff that's unfolding is it's where our wisdom is. So don't look at it as a weakness. It's where we're here to learn. And then once we've learnt those lessons, so they're
Yeah,
our biggest challenges, but they're also our biggest wisdom. So once we've learnt, that's what we're here then to help guide others in that
yeah,
knowledge and wisdom. So, but there is, I guess, an element of this that would is relevant to everybody
yeah,
and can make sense for everybody listening. And that's
yeah.
around the fact that we're in a very unique
Oh,
time at the moment where we're moving from one era into another era. And eras last for about 400 years.
yeah.
So we're coming in, so 2027 is the switch into the new era.
Okay.
And we're
So
going
we're
to be
nearly
here for it.
there because
Well, it's already started.
yeah, I'll tell you the picture that I've got, and I've heard that this happens in war, that you've got this country fighting this country,
Yeah,
and there are certain days like Christmas Day or whatever where you've got no man's land in the middle,
yeah,
and we're in that no man's land.
yes,
But it
yes.
sounds like if you look at we're in 25 and 27, we're nearly out of no man's land. So
Yes,
in this no man, you're not this and you're not that.
that's right.
You're
That's right.
leaving this to become that.
Yeah.
Okay. And
And
that
that
is
and that will go longer than 2027, obviously,
sure,
because it's a
sure,
transition, right? So
sure.
and to so this will be something that everybody feels, and
Yep,
that is around the fact that we're moving. So the era we're moving from is the era of planning. And
yep.
so to delve into that a little bit more, it's around the institutions,
Mm,
it's
mm,
it's where things like in Australia, Medicare, was developed, or health, like research into health and cures for disease, and
mm.
the education system. And so if you think about all the things that have sort of happened over the last 400 years, it's all this sort of um, forward movement for
Yeah,
humanity around all
yeah,
of this stuff. But it's what it is us trusting in institutions
yeah,
and governments, and we'll look after you, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's about external,
yeah,
and it's not about internal. So it's not about in trusting your own internal spirit. We're now moving into the era of the individual, which is around trusting your own inner guidance.
yeah,
And so you can imagine in that, I really like your analogy, Barb, of no man's land, which we've already moved into
yeah,
and will be in for a while, right? So there's going to be people who are not going to like that change. So they're going to resist it. But then there's people who are going to struggle with it because they're so used to trusting. And it's back to what I was saying earlier about I should do this, or I should, I've
yeah,
got to go to school. I've got to. I've got to get a career and maybe got to go to college or university and all those things but deep down inside your spirit might want something completely different, but we're not listening to it.
Mm.
So it's about, so what will start to happen is people will start doing things that seem like it's against the norm.
The
But there
norm.
won't be any norms. The
Yeah.
norms will
Yeah.
disappear.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see it, and I don't necessarily want to go into politics as such, but
Mm.
you can see what's happening around the world and how no matter what you believe, we're starting to distrust in the institutions.
Yeah.
And we're starting to believe that I'm the only one who knows the right thing for me. And I'm not going to listen to what other people are saying is the right thing for me. So, but it's going to be hard for those people to start listening to their inner truth because they haven't listened to it for so long. So people are going to need help and guidance and through that process.
Mm.
Um,
Can I just say, when this might be off topic, but
yeah,
I don't know that it truly is, but when I first came to New Zealand with my husband, well, my partner then in 1990, I did a massive amount of readings, and I'm relating this to the third chakra, which is the chakra of independent and dependency. And so it was around that time, 1990. So it'd be interesting to go back and look at the
mm,
charts that a lot of the big businesses, let's say Chrysler, Mobil, they had everything was in house. So advertising, marketing,
yeah,
lawyers, everything was in house. So we were dependent on that corporation.
yeah,
What happened in early 1990s, I noticed through readings and
mm,
what I was seeing, was that that all broke down. Now, in America, there was something like 45 odd million people lost their jobs around this time. And it
yeah,
was because the breaking down of the conditions. But the most exciting part of that was that 50 million new small businesses, single traders, that sort of thing came
yes,
about.
yeah,
Okay. So then the third chakra, which was dependent, now we're becoming independent. Now,
yes,
what has happened since then is the bigger corporations have a place, and so do small businesses have a place. I'm just talking business at the
yeah,
minute.
yeah,
And then what happened out of that became the word interdependent.
yes,
So the dependency broke down, we became independent, and now we're joining together. So, what that interdependency says is I have my skill, you've got your skill, and we're unique in ourselves.
yeah,
Join it together, and we've got a I can do the things you can't do, and you do the
yes,
things that I can't do. So we make a whole.
yes,
And,
yes,
and that sort of lends to where we're going because remember most things take 4 generations to come about.
yeah,
And if
yeah,
a generation is 15 years roughly,
yeah,
then that's 60 years.
yeah. And so I think what that was a step towards what we're seeing now. And
Absolutely.
COVID obviously like pushed all of this ahead even further. Now, whether that was divine intervention or whatever,
I think it was. I think that the world, if you have a look at that time, and all globally from what I've seen, and I know what happened here, is that everything stopped.
yeah,
Right now, we had never in our history has the globe stopped for so long, so we can start thinking again. Once we
that's
get through the process of how to think, like because we've never thought, everybody tells us what to do and how when to turn up. But in that gave us this independence, um, this independence of being being then able to come in and work as a group.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the technological improvements that had to happen during that
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
it laid the groundwork for all of the digital entrepreneurs that we now see.
yeah,
And that's just going to grow even more because,
yeah.
you've had people who have seen what it's like to work from home and
Yes,
seen how better that is for their
yeah,
families, for their own mental health,
yep,
um, and that, those hybrid systems of working.
yeah,
And I think that's where the individual is now having a lot more power. And
yeah.
so the big corporate, they're going to want to hold on to their power, but we might see that that's going to shift as the years.
And it will. So where in the chart that's got to come in the human design, because
Yes,
if
yes.
if if there is no coincidence, there is no accident, everything's in divine order,
Mm,
then it's got to be in the human design somewhere as well. And I'm
yeah,
talking individually because
yeah.
each of us have a different part to play in this new world.
Yeah. So if you think about the fact that if we're going from the era of planning into the era of the individual, um, there's going to need to be those people who can help. So there'll be guardians of the good stuff from the
Yep,
old era. So are you designed to, and there's elements of my design where I need to recognize the good stuff of the previous era and help be that guardian of
yep,
that
yep,
stuff. And then there's people who are to be those role models to
yep,
show people how to live in the new era
yep,
and believe in your
yep,
instincts and your own spirit. So
yep,
that's where we each have a different role within
yep,
our design as
yep.
to how we are to show up in
Yep.
this new era and help guide.
And that would
Because
be that would be interesting. Excuse me for cutting
yeah,
you off there, but that'd be interesting. And I'll speak to our audience at the moment that this could be really interesting for you to get your design created, so
yeah,
that you understand in this absolute world of chaos that we're living in at the moment, where up is down and
yeah.
out is in, and it's just but important and necessary, because no change comes from bliss. Only change
Yeah,
comes from pain. And so I think that'd be an interesting concept. It's like, okay, I understand who I am through the design. I
yeah,
understand what I've came down with my fixed parts, and then the fluid parts.
yeah,
But how am I a part of the new change?
yeah, yeah. And there I've got like there's keys and locks that
Really?
each of us may have different keys and locks within what we're moving from. So there'll be some people who will have the keys from the current era that
Right.
they need to then bring through, and there'll be some people who have the keys for the new era where they step
Right.
up as role models. So it's all in your chart.
Now
So
that is exciting.
it is exciting.
I think that to me is more exciting
Mm. Yeah,
because I've lived the past,
yeah,
but this makes me understand. Like my chart makes me understand me more of who I was and
yeah,
who I've become
yeah,
through the experiences that life gave me, which were actually pretty cruddy in the early days, but
yeah.
they got better. And but to me, the most exciting is where to from here.
That's what
What
I think
what
as
is
well.
my part to play in this new era of goodness? Because
Yeah.
funnily enough, about this time last year, I don't know, well, I do know how it got to me, but
Hmm.
I hashtagged Global Goodness Matters.
Yeah,
And so everything that I do comes under the umbrella of goodness, which is
yeah,
exactly what you were saying. So
yeah.
for those of you out there, do yourself a favor. Go find this out for yourself. It will show you your divine part to play.
Yeah. Yeah. It will, 100%. I love Global Goodness Matters because all of this, everything can be used for good and bad. Like the people who, in the era of planning, there's some things that came out of that that were fantastic that we should keep and
Yeah.
move into the new era. But, there's evil out there as well, and
It
selfishness, and yeah.
whole thing.
Mm.
Well, Natalie, unfortunately, our time is coming to an end.
Thanks so much
And
for having me,
oh,
Barb.
look, this has just been really exciting. And you know what I loved about today was um, my past would have made me quite perturbed because of reading your design as my design.
Yes.
And it just like we flowed with that, and we I'm leaving it in because it's really important.
Yeah,
and
but
and
do you
it's
know, can I just say, Barb, as I
sure
was doing it and I'm reading it and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking my instincts are telling me, am I on mine? It looks like, and if I just listened to my instincts, because it was there, I was like, this doesn't feel right. But I pushed through and it's like, no, okay. And then I realized. So thank you. Thank you for that.
look it's I think that thank you. This has been a really, really exciting time for me. So, um, I'm going to, in the description, I'm going to put your links into your Facebook page. What is your link?
So I just use my own name, Natalie Upson, for my business. So that'll be on Facebook. So I can give you that link. So, but you can search my name, Natalie Upson, on Facebook, and you'll find me. And then I have a website in making. So depending on when then people are listening to this, they'll be able to access that. So I'll give you that domain, which
That
is
would be amazing.
the Human
Now,
Design Studio, is what that
now
is.
the other thing I heard
Hmm.
about you is that you actually do readings around this.
Yes, so
Not,
I
not
can do
just,
reading.
I'll do you a chart and I'll tell you what the chart means, but you actually do a reading around the chart.
Yes, yes. So I can run a report for people and then do a reading around that. And that can be I also apply some coaching techniques in that as well. So to not just talk about what it says, but to
Yeah.
give you tips and guidance on how to then implement that in your own life.
More do you need?
Thanks,
What more do you need? Natalie, thank you. I'm excited.
Bob.
I'm just too excited. Thank you so much for being here today and participating in this interview. Your message and what you do is important to a lot of people. It's not for everyone, but then again, you can't serve everyone.
No.
I mean, that's just the way it is. So, for those who have been inspired or sparked or whatever you like to call it, please contact Natalie. As I said, I will put her information up on my Facebook page. I'll put it up on Global Goodness Matters as well. I have that Facebook page. I've also got Barbara D. Hayward, which I don't use a lot, but I'm going to put it up there too, because the Old Girl Spiritual Stuff Facebook page has got a different audience and of course up on the YouTube channel. So thank you so much for imparting your knowledge and the modalium that you're in at the moment. And be good, stay
Thanks,
kind,
Bob.
and don't forget to breathe. We all need to breathe. Thank you so much.
Thanks.